Good evening. It's Friday. Hey, Linda. Thank you so much for joining. I see you. Today I'm talking about codependency and intimacy. How we sometimes confuse intimacy when we're codependent and we don't really know why we're trauma bonding and going into rebound situations, and we find ourselves just in the wrong places at the wrong time. Give me 1 second. I'm going to get started very soon. Everything is everything. Everything is everything. After winter must come spring. Everything. Good evening, guys. So today, like I said, I'm talking about codependency and intimacy. We're learning how to break generational cycles. We're learning how to emerge into a higher level of self. We're learning how to heal. We're learning how to stop trauma bonding. We're learning how to find ourselves in the midst of whatever it is that we're going through, be it life, be it relationship, be it anything that you call it, by what you call it. So today it's looking at codependency and intimacy. How come we become codependent and believe that we have intimate relationships, but they're not necessarily intimate relationships? They're just trauma bonds that we create. They're actually rebounds. They're friends with benefits. They're, whatever name out there that is called, without really being intimate from a place of codependency. And it's all breaking down everything so that you can begin to heal. You can begin to learn about yourself. You can begin to emerge. You can begin to forgive yourself. You can begin to regain your confidence. You can begin to bounce back in your own life so that you can find yourself, find your voice, and move into a healthy space when it comes to relationship. As children, we were taught about touch when we cried. And because we've been taught about touch when we cry, we've learned to look for comfort in the physical side of life. Let me say it again. As children, when we cried, we were taught about touch. And because we were learning and mastering touch as a way of comfort, when we're broken, that is the first source that we go to. And because that is the first source that we go to, it's very easy for us to think that sexual intimacy, from a standpoint of a relationship that's not healthy, is what will heal us. And so we begin to look to become codependent on someone who feeds the flesh, not necessarily your soul. I shared earlier on in my group this week about your thought process. When you're in a place of pain, your thought process allows you to feed your flesh. And the first thing you look for when you're in a place of pain is the comfort. I want someone to hold me. I want someone to cuddle me. I want someone to be romantic. And when we shift to that place, what happens is usually we create sexual ties, soul ties, while being codependent. We haven't learned about ourselves yet. We haven't discovered ourselves yet. We haven't figured out those things that we buried as children, the inner child wounds, how to heal them. We don't even know what they are sometimes. And we're not even consciously aware of the way we're seeking to get comforted is just on the fleshy side. your thought process when you're going through life, your thought process when you're operating from a place of pain, either internal childhood pain that is buried or adult pain or trauma, is that your thoughts connect with your flesh first. Let me say that again. Your thoughts when you're operating from a place of pain connect with your physical first. But your mind is not being fed right, because your mind is what feeds your soul. And your mind is what really sets you free. But when your thoughts are convoluted, your mindset becomes convoluted. So in a place where you have the longing for that childhood experience, to become free from that childhood experience, you have that longing to be free. You have that longing that leads to you seeking for touch, that seeks the way it operates in men. Let me break it down so you can better understand it. In men that have gone through childhood trauma, what typically happens is sex is the way they get consoled. Sex is the way they get consoled. And so they seek for the touch. They seek to have a woman in their place. They seek to just form that trauma bond and to just love on someone from that place of pain. And so their fleshly connection to touch is sex, because that's what they've mastered as boys. And so when they look for it, they end up hurting other women. As women, it's the other way around. We look for the guy because growing up, we've been taught about Prince Charming and whisking us away from either books we read or stories we heard or even movies or TV programs that we've watched. And so when we're in a place of pain as women, we go look for the rescuer, the Peter Pan, to sweep you off your feet. And once that happens, you tend to find yourself becoming codependent on them and pleasing and trying to fix, because you just don't want to leave that place. You think that the pain that you've carried from childhood, either from an absentee father, you're now seeking another partner to fill that void, to help you bond. And it's all about the touch first. That's why as women, it's very easy when you're trauma bonding with someone who is in pain to say, you know what, I'll give in to the sex, maybe our relationship will go further. And what you find out is the relationship is not getting anywhere better. All you're doing is creating more soul ties. And you're soul tied to A, and then you leave that relationship and you haven't had the time to heal first. And then you quickly bond with somebody else. And you find yourself in rebounds, constantly repeating cycles and patterns. But you don't really know why the patterns are going back and forth, back and forth. You try to tell yourself all the stories possible to get you out of that. But because you're operating from a subconscious or unconscious place, you're not really aware that the intimacy that you're deriving is not actually intimacy, but it's rebound, it's soul ties, it's unhealthy relationships. And what you create even brings you more pain, because when that person exits, you start to think that they're the source of the problem. But all that you're gaining a conscious awareness of in that moment is that you're unhealthy yourself and you need to work on it. But what the society teaches us is not to focus on that we're unhealthy. They teach us to focus on the romantic side. And I'm about healing first. Because when you heal yourself, when you find yourself, when you go through that journey of self-love, you realize so many things that led you to the wrong relationships. You realize so many things that made you become codependent. You realize so many things that take you off the course of a healthy relationship. And you begin to work on yourself. Intimacy from a perspective of unhealthy relationships and codependency is not necessarily intimacy. It's just that you're getting pacified with sex. And you're using sex as a food for comfort from a place where you're still not healing yourself. you're still not addressing the inner childhood pain and trauma, and you're still shoving everything under the rug and packaging on the outside, but inside there's a longing for you to become free. And it's all about breaking free from this thing so that when you begin to do the work in your space, you can really learn to emerge from there. One of the things that we do from a place of pain, when we're becoming codependent and we're using sex as comfort, and we think that is intimacy, is we're investing in the wrong avenues and we're ignoring the red flags. Most of the time when you're getting into those relationships, you realize that something isn't right about that relationship. And you tell yourself all the possible excuses and stories to keep you in that relationship. If I do this, maybe he'll make things right. If I do this, maybe I can get her to change. If I do this, maybe I can make her to stay. If I cook and I clean and I put myself here and I give him good sex, maybe the relationship will go to the next level. But that relationship was never meant to be in the instance. All that relationship was about was to bring you that conscious awareness that you're getting yourself into unhealthy places, and you need to come to the light, that you need to heal, that you need to forgive, that you need to learn those lessons and shove them underneath the rug and become emotionally numb to yourself without even realizing that you're emotionally numb. And it's helping you realize that everything you're settling for is not feeding your soul, but making you lose yourself further in your journey. And so you have to realize that healing the inner child is very key to stopping codependency and getting into relationships that you're focusing on as intimacy, but they're not necessarily intimacy. They're just trauma bonding and soul ties that are not getting you to where you necessarily need to be. And it's because you aren't who you were created to be. In that instance, you're lost in your path. And once we become emotionally numb, we don't even realize how toxic we are to ourselves. I've walked this journey myself. I've gone through this experience myself of healing and discovering why I got into the wrong marriage in the instance, because I had those inner childhood pain and trauma that I hadn't healed from. I shared part of it several times on this platform, that I was raped at 17 and I did not even know how to heal or how to get out of that. But until I went on a journey of self-discovery 10 years ago, before I was able to uncover that, and I was able to heal from that, and I was able to realize that my inner childhood experiences, and pain and trauma that I hadn't healed from, were leading me to the wrong places and allowing me to become codependent, and thinking that intimacy was what I was, getting, but it was just me giving my body away while my soul was longing for solutions. And so sometimes you find out when you're codependent and you think that you're intimate with someone, sometimes your body is just lying down there and you're not feeling anything because you're emotionally numb to yourself. You shut yourself down and you're putting yourself in a place where you're continuously being broken down than healing yourself. And the key is to always figure it out before you go too deep into the relationship. You would attract unemotionally healthy people because you yourself are currently unemotionally healthy. When you're codependent and you're forming those sexual ties, those soul ties, from a place where you think, oh, we're becoming intimate in the relationship, it's just because you're emotionally unavailable in your own space. And you're now attracting unemotionally available partners. Remember what I always share. We are what we attract and who we accept. And so because you're operating from an emotionally unavailable space to yourself, you would attract people that are also emotionally unavailable. And the key to that, the antidote to that, is to, master those repeated patterns that are occurring, document them, Um, that's an exercise for you today to look at where you are with yourself. And if you can begin to document those things and see how you've been repeating patterns, then those patterns you need to heal from so that you can get away from that cycle. It's also looking at, have you been accepting rebounds as your only solution because you don't yet know who you are and you don't have core values yet. You don't have requirements yet. You're not meeting your own needs yet. And so you're forming what you think, oh, I'm getting intimate with someone, our relationship is going to the next level, but you're forming those bonds based on emotional numbness to yourself. And it's allowing you to shift from who you are to who you're not. And so it's giving your power away, it's giving your body away, it's giving your soul away. Because when you tie your soul to someone, you're giving your soul to that person and you're losing yourself. Every time you give your soul away, you're losing a bit of yourself. Every time you soul tie with someone, you're losing a piece of yourself. And the more you lose a piece of yourself to somebody else, the more you become emotionally numb to yourself. And you're going to live in that subconscious or unconscious state of mind without realizing it. And it's like a repeated cycle. You think, okay, now I'm ready to find another partner. And you jump into another relationship without taking the time to heal yet. And you find yourself attracting the same kind of person. They may, their game plan may be different, but it's all the same repeated cycle. And so you have to look at where you need to take a break and tell yourself, I need to be emotionally healed. I need to be mentally healed. I need to be physically healed. I need to be spiritually healed so that when I cleanse myself, when I detox my space, I'm not forming the wrong intimate bond with the wrong partner, but I'm looking at myself and saying, there's so much work to do in me. And when I heal, not only do I heal, I regain my confidence. I recognize the cycles. I'm willing to break them. I'm willing to stop recycling those patterns again. I'm willing to regain my power. I'm willing to regain my voice. And I'm willing to begin to live my own life authentically without having to package myself or without having to settle and think that if I try to make someone comfortable, then I will be comfortable. Because until you make yourself comfortable, until you find your voice, until you feel whole in your own instance, you will not become restored. And what you do is empty your cup out all the time for other people that come into your space. If there are questions, I will take your questions because the goal is to really help you get that awakening, that rude awakening that leads you to a place of healing, that rude awakening that leads you to a place of finding yourself, that rude awakening that makes you see that every time you give your power away, you lose yourself, then find yourself. Let me say that again. Every time you give your power away, you lose yourself, then find yourself. And if you're not finding yourself, then you're not gaining a conscious awareness of who you are. You're not understanding why those patterns and cycles are being repeated. You're not understanding why your soul is tied to so many people that when you're with A in a relationship, your mind is with B. It also happens to couples where they're married, but the spouse still wants to cheat because his soul is still not in sync with his mind and body. And so he or she is also going out to seek for answers. But the answer lies within. And the answer is all about healing those inner wounds that we carry. Sometimes we numb ourselves so much to it that we don't even realize how much we're hurting ourselves. It's self-sabotage, is limited beliefs, it's conditioned mindset, it's convoluted thought process, it's losing yourself then finding yourself. But you have to understand that the healing process is the only solution to freeing you from forming these bonds based on what we've been conditioned with. I'm in a place of pain and I'm looking for comfort. The first thing I think is touch, because that's what we've been conditioned with as a child. That's what we've been taught. That's how we grew up, that if you cry as a baby, someone will lift you and comfort you. And so that as a child, those vacuum may have been created, those voids may have been created, and that has resulted in a big, vacuum in your life, where every time you have that feeling of being broken, it triggers those childhood memories, and all you do is long for the touch, because your inner child is longing for the pain that's buried, but he hasn't discovered how to heal yet. And until you first of all heal the inner child, and then begin to heal the outer child, the adult child, from the wounds that you carry, it's just going to be a repeated pattern and cycle. And that's why it's very easy for so many people now to get into sexual relationships and think that that is it. I don't have to be married. We can just keep shagging. We can just be friends with benefits. We can just keep, keeping it this way. But your value is constantly lost. Because if that person changes their mind tomorrow and says, it's time to pack your things over and move out, then you're completely lost in your own world again. And so when you have so much buried pain and inner trauma that you haven't healed from, what you do is settle constantly, because you're looking for the quickest way out. But the quickest way out does not always result in solving your problems. They create more problems. And until you begin to dig deep into the roots to say, you know what, I'm not going to be investing myself in sexual intimacy that is not even satisfying your soul, it's just satisfying your flesh and pacifying your pain, then you won't really see the need to stop the pattern and cycle. But once you gain that conscious awareness of why this is going on constantly, then you become committed to the journey. Without becoming committed to the journey of healing, nothing is going to change. I chose to become committed to I was tired of it. I was tired of, why am I in a relationship where I feel like I'm dead? I feel like I'm caged. I feel like I'm lost. I feel like I don't even know myself. And so I had to embark on the journey of healing. I had to say, you know what? I need to find myself, because there was that longing within me for a solution, but I tried all the quick avenues and nothing happened. And so I had to make the choice to become committed to myself and to walk the journey of healing, which is not a one-time thing, it's a lifetime experience. The more you decide, I'm committed to healing myself, and you're choosing you first. It's all about choosing you and you being the chooser. The more you're choosing yourself, the more you become liberated. If you're not choosing yourself, then you're saying, everyone can choose me, everyone can step over me, everyone can take my power away. But when and where are you going to decide it's time to own your power and own your own voice? It's time to find yourself and heal. It's time to give that inner child freedom that it's longing for, so that you as an adult can also become free. It's time to break free from what's breaking you. It's time to stop choosing others and leaving yourself behind. It's time to stop dimming your own light. It's time to stop self-sabotaging and start self-loving. It's just the right time to do it. And you will never really push yourself if you don't commit to yourself. Let me say that again. You will never really push yourself if you don't become committed to yourself, to walk the journey of healing your inner child first, healing yourself first, and making sure that you are becoming whole first before you can now look at someone and say, this person is a reflection of me and we can have a healthy relationship. If you're not doing that, then what you're going to find out is that all that inner child trauma and pain that you have unconsciously buried or subconsciously buried is leading and attracting people that are also in the same space. It's law of attraction. If you're not aware of the toxicity in your own space, you would attract people that are also not aware of toxicity, and it's just a collision. All your relationship is conflicts and fights and argument and trying to please and trying to do and trying to fix and trying to make sure someone is comfortable while you are uncomfortable in your own stance. And that's why you find out that you're easily depleted in a relationship, because true love will never deplete you. True love would always elevate you. But when both partners are operating from a place of pain and trauma from childhood and they haven't healed from it, that will result in you becoming codependent on each other. And all you're doing is nursing the wounds, not addressing the wounds in a way where they're healing. And what you find out is you're always a bottleneck. I must do this and I must do that and this has to happen and that. Oh, you're not good enough. And the words just come out. And nothing is helping in that space. And so the key is to healing your inner child first. Don't ignore the red flags when they come, because those are also conscious knowledge that you're gaining, that you're repeating cycles. When you say, I have this loneliness, I have this neediness, and I'm lonely, the void is in you, the childhood trauma in you, the childhood pain, the inner child is crying, I need to be free. And that's why sometimes as adults, you find yourself just, when you're emotionally numb, you find yourself walking away from some things that are real and true, that can bring you the truth that you need, that will set you free. I used to walk away before. If somebody came and said, oh, I noticed this about you, I'm just like walking. I'm like, you know what? I don't want to hear it, because at that point, it was a trigger to bring away, it was a trigger to take me into a flashback of my pain. And I did not even know what healing was at that time. I hadn't gone through the journey of self-discovery and actualization. So I was just carrying pain on and attracting more pain. And I will party away and I will use that to console myself. But yet, I was still carrying all the heavy weight. It's time to drop all the weight. It's time to stop using sex and think that you're intimate with someone. It's time to stop tying your soul to the wrong partner. It's time to stop the rebounds. It's time to stop the friend with benefits, because all they do is make you build on top of the pain that you already have buried, but your inner child is crying out for help to become free. And until the inner child is free, the adult life cannot be birthed into existence. Let me say that again. Until your inner child is free, your adult life will not be birthed into existence. Let me type that out. Until your inner child is free. Your adult life cannot be brought to life. And so all you're doing is just massaging the inner child and saying, you know what, I can marinate you and soothe you just like I was soothed as a baby, and that will go away. I can go shopping to pacify you and make you feel good, but not necessarily become good. And that's why people have alter egos sometimes. This child here is crying for help, but the adult is already living on the ego side and facing a lot of fears because they don't want the inner child to come out. And so you suppress the inner child and the pain and the wounds, but those manifest back out because there is a longing to break free so that your adult life can be better. Your adult life can be free of pain. Your adult life can heal, and your adult life can become mature to where you now recognize what you truly need in your space, and you're no longer settling for less. If there are questions, like I said, I will take your questions. It's all about helping you realize that sex is not the solution to breaking free from codependency. It worsens codependency. It takes you more into tying your soul. And the more you tie your soul with someone, the more you lose yourself. The more you tie your soul in an unhealthy relationship, the more you lose yourself. And so if you're losing yourself, you will never truly find who you are. You will never regain your confidence. You will just go on living a life of pain and worry and anxiety and panicking, and your health is deteriorating and your mind is convoluted, but nothing is leading to you breaking free You just become more conditioned. You become emotionally numb to yourself. You give yourself away. You give your power away. You compromise who you are, and you're lost in your own world without truly finding yourself. Healing is always the only solution there is. The medication sometimes will not help you, because if your mind is not right, your life will never be right. If your mind isn't right, your life will not be right. And so if your mind is not right and your life is not right, then you're only going to live in your own shadow and dim your light. No one can dim your light if you don't give them the power to do it. And the way it happens that we give our power away is because we haven't discovered our true self. It's time to say no to rebounds. It's time to say no to soul ties. It's time to say no to anything that takes you off the course of who you are and helps you get lost in the wrong places and help you find yourself. Think about all the years you've suffered the pain and repeated the cycles. Those have taken away from you. Now it's time to regain those years back. Now it's time to look at yourself and say, you know what? I'm tired of repeating patterns. I'm tired of cycles. I just want to break free from what's breaking me. Because if you're not breaking free from what's breaking you, you will mask it. You're the only person who knows the pain that you carry. Let's face it. You're the only person who knows the pain and the level and the depth of the pain that you carry. You can pretend and package it for everybody else. But when you go back home at night and lay on that bed, you know what you're dealing with outside of everybody else. People may get an idea about what's going on and they may not even tell you. But when you decide, I'm ready to commit to myself, I'm tired of living a mediocre life, I'm tired of giving my value away, because people can't even recognize your value when you're not healthy in your own space. No matter how you say it, I'm worth more. Until you know yourself, you won't really realize what you're truly worth. Until you meet your needs, you won't know what you're really worth. And when you do that, when you start meeting your needs, when you start healing, when you start emerging, you realize that you will not get into those spaces because you have healthy boundaries, and the people that are unhealthy in your life will just fall off the wagon. If you don't allow them to pull you back into the drama, if you don't allow them to pull you back into the pain, you just decide, you know what? If I had to go through this painful experience of finding myself, I'm not ready to lose myself in any instance. No, you won't even try to convince them about anything. You know you're building on yourself. You know you don't want to be codependent anymore. You know it's time to get off all that pretense and all that packaging and to just unload. You know it's time to get out of the murky waters and really live your life to where you're having your peace, your happiness, you're loving on yourself. Because when you love yourself enough, you will never be codependent anymore. When you love yourself enough, you realize you're not a people pleaser or people fixer. Let me say that again. When you love yourself enough, you realize you're not a people pleaser or a people fixer. You realize you can only handle what you can control. And whatever you can control, you will not even allow into your own space. When you recognize who you are and an unhealthy partner shows up, you're like this. Nope. Sorry, it's not going to happen. I'm in a healthy place. But when you still have some buried pain, it's very easy for you to say, you know what? My neediness from a place of my inner child is longing, and so I'm going to trauma bond easily with someone. And when they don't agree with what you're looking for, all you try to do is, can you stay? Can we make it work? Can we find a way out? Is there anything I can do to just make you see that I'm the best partner for you? But they can't see it. They can't see it. They're also in a place of pain. They're also emotionally numb to some things that you would actually may bring to their awareness. But what you discover is in such situations, if you're not if you're not healed yet, when two unhealthy people come together, all they do is marinate the pain. Once the pain comes to the surface, the one person looks for comfort. I want to be held. The other person is like, let's use sex as the only solution. And after the sex, you feel empty again. Nothing is changing. And you find yourself repeating the patterns. You may get with a partner today and say, you know what? I don't even want to keep myself. But once that inner child pain resurfaces, you're giving in quickly. One little touch, you're like melting down and like just giving yourself away to the sexual fantasy and illusion. Your body is satisfied, but your soul is still longing to be free from the pain that's still being buried. And what you're doing at that point is getting sexual intimacy to satisfy your flesh, but your soul is still longing to break free from the inner childhood trauma or pain that you may carry, or the layers that you may even have acquired as an adult. And all you are looking for is another comfort. This person has rejected you. The fear of rejection has also showed up. It did not work out. You don't even want to think about why it didn't work out, and you're on to the next person. And I've seen people do it with marriage. People that are not working on healing. From marriage 1 to marriage 2 to marriage 3 to marriage 4. But they can't seem to find out that what they're doing is building those trauma bonds. They're still a codependent, and they're just using sexual intimacy to cover up the pain. But what they're also doing is acquiring more pain and building on the layers that already exist. The inner child wants to heal from the pain that you've carried from maybe 2 years to 10 years or 16 years or 18 years. But your adult life just wants to bury all that. And the more you try to bury it because you haven't discovered yourself yet, the more you lose yourself. That's why being single is a state for the fragile heart. Because as a single person, that's the stage where we truly need to discover ourselves. That's the stage where you don't choose to compare yourself. That's the stage where we also go through the peer pressure that takes us off the course of who we are and even allows us to compromise based on those that are not aware of who they are yet. But we're all trauma bonding and building on the wrong path of relationship. So take a look at those things that you've gone through, write them down. Let's get together and walk through. Starting next week, I will be creating these sessions in a room on Facebook Messenger. It's only going to be 50 people that can get into the room with me. And we're going to kind of start to group coach, where if you're really committed to the journey, I would invite you in to connect with me and have a complimentary session to help you begin to uncover. There's also membership that you can join that can take you through the course. There are several courses. There are several coaching programs that can help you uncover. You can get being single and beyond the pain and on becoming restored. They all have workbooks that you can walk through and begin to look within to identify those inner child wounds so that when you come into coaching, it's easier to help you uncover those little ones that you may not have touched on, and also help you through support to heal from it while you do the work. I cannot do the work for you. You have to do the work in your own life. I'm still going through doing the work in my own journey. It's been 10 years plus, but I'm still working because healing is a lifetime process. And the more you heal, the more you uncover more things that will help you heal. And like I shared with you last week, the peace and happiness that I have now, I will never trade it for anything else. Now that I know me. Now that I know me. I'm still discovering myself. Discovering yourself is also a lifetime process. You learn every single day as long as you're committed to learning and finding yourself. If you're not committed, you will live a life like everybody else. But remember, you're only accountable for yourself. They can't even account for how you live. And you don't want to wait until you exit and figure out, oh, I've been living a lie all the while. I'm not even my own best friend. And you find yourself not even wanting to get up sometimes from bed because there's that heavy spirit upon you. You find yourself there are people who use games as their, comfort. There are people who use food as a comfort. There are people who use sex as a comfort. There are people who use alcohol as a comfort. And that all leads to addiction. But the addiction never takes away the problems. They only marinate them for a moment. It's like having a feeling that only would exist in this moment. The next feeling that comes, you may even discard. But until you come to own the truth that sets you free and say, you know what? I'm tired of living in a box. I'm tired of living in a cage. I was not created to be caged. I was created to be free. I'm tired of being in the dark. I'm ready to be the light that I am. I'm tired of giving my power away. I'm ready to own my own voice. I'm tired of lying to myself. I'm ready to own my truth. Until you say those things to yourself and become committed to that journey, you will just find yourself, today you're excited, you met someone, you're going to broadcast it to everybody. And then tomorrow when the relationship doesn't happen, you come back and it's all negative. Never use intimacy while you're codependent, because all that does is create soul ties and take away from who you are. Let me say that again. Never use sexual intimacy while being codependent as a source of comfort, because when that relationship ends, it's taking a huge piece of who you are and depleted you. No matter what other people say, think about yourself first. This is your own life. People would always have something to say. People would always give advice from a place of pain. But no one can walk in your own shoes like you can. You're the only one who knows where the pain lies when you step into those shoes. You're the only one who knows what you need to heal from. You're the only one who has those triggers and memories of the childhood, inner child wounds and pain and trauma that you've gone through. And you're the only one that can decide it's time for me to heal from it and break free from it and regain my confidence and heal myself and forgive myself and move out of the dark into the light and say yes to myself. No one else can do it but you. But if you're ready to walk that journey, here I am to support you. Here I am to hold you by the hand, with God being the foundation of all things that we do. I can't do it by myself. I'm just a vessel. I've had to go through this journey so I can help other people that are going through it to heal from the inner child pain that leads them repeating cycles and patterns and self-sabotaging. And it's all about helping you uncover so that you can recover and become restored while you're still living. Tomorrow, remember, tomorrow is not guaranteed, not even the next nanosecond. So if you're ready to hop on this ride and let's go on this train ride together, feel free to inbox me or send me an email, coaching@kemisogunle.com. I'll be more than happy to take you through the journey and help you uncover those things. I had some people sign up this week who were ready based on what I shared last week. Don't leave yourself behind. This is 2020, a year of restoration. This is 2020, let me say that again, a year of restoration, a year of enlightenment, a year where you can become a higher level of self with everything that's going on around you. It's getting that enlightenment to become free from what's breaking you. The more you free yourself, the more you're able to stop existing and start living authentically and the best life you can. I tell you, every time I look back, I'm like, I was still sharing with a client today who gave me a call before this this live, I said, listen, when I look back now, I'm like, anyone that shows up from where I used to be, anyone that shows up and tries to come in, I'm like, shh, healthy boundaries up. No room. I don't have room for this anymore. Your level of tolerance for things that don't serve you will be this. And you will just discard. And you will realize, if I'm not healthy within and I invite unhealthy in, my house will be trashed. My house will be trashed. So don't let people trash you out. And don't give your power away. It's time to begin to own it. It's time to begin to love on yourself. It's time to begin to heal so that you can be free. It's time to stop walking around dead within your soul, emotionally numb to yourself, self-sabotaging and living in the dark when you were created to be a light. So connect with me. Let's go on this ride together and let's heal. Let's break the cycles. Let's say no to the past and yes to the present and the future that lies ahead. The only person who can stop you from doing it is you. So whatever you choose, remember, will be your reality, and every choice you make comes with a consequence that you face. Choose wisely. Never stop loving while living. When you stop loving, you stop living, and when you stop living, it means it's time to go back. But you can't love from a place of pain, not anyone else, not including yourself, until you heal, find yourself, become restored, move beyond the pain. That is when you can break free from whatever's breaking you. I hope you all have a good night. I'll talk to you soon. Take good care. God bless. Bye-bye.